Brett's in Boreham Wood. Brett, what would you like to say?
Hi, James. Well, I'm not your demographic. I'm a Tory councillor in Radler, actually, from Boreham Wood.
I thought
you were looking for a Tory voice.
There is. I do not have a demographic, Brett. We deal only in principles and facts on this programme. So I'm sure you are my demographic.
Okay, well, my point is, look, Lee Anderson was wrong in what he said. He was trying to take something, he was using something that Sadiq Khan said in 2017 about moderate Muslims and trying to turn that into something else. He was wrong in saying that. The problem I have with this whole conversation is anti-Semitism as a Jew. Now, what has happened in this conversation, we started with Big Ben projecting what I believe and what 90% of Jewish people believe is a genocidal chant from the river to the sea.
Except when Benjamin Netanyahu puts it in election material.
Yeah, I understand that. Again, I understand that, but I think at the same time he's doing that as a response to what he's hearing in...
But he's literally... I've seen him holding up a map which has Israel extending from the river to the sea and making it clear that that's his ambition.
Benjamin Netanyahu would likely get taken out, will likely get voted out at the next election. So we'll see.
But he's not, though, is he? He's currently the Prime Minister of Israel. I mean, I take your point, and I believe that you're making the point in good faith, but you can't just gloss over the fact that the man who's currently leading the attack on Gaza routinely deploys the notion of from the river to the sea as an electoral lever.
Again, I don't want to talk about Gaza. I want to talk about...
Well, you have to, because the reason the reason that phrase was projected onto the Elizabeth Tower was precisely because of what's happening in Gaza.
Well, look...
So you can't talk about one without the other, Brett.
If you want to talk about Gaza...
I don't particularly. I want to talk about Lee Anderson. You brought Gaza into it. I'm not quite sure why.
Okay. Can we start again? So
yeah, of course we can.
We've got a projection of from the river to the sea, which 90%...
No, but we're talking about Gaza now.
You're talking over me. You're talking about over me, okay? 90% of Jews...
I'm sorry, I am going to talk over you if you say things that are disingenuous. You said we were going to start over and not talk about Gaza.
But it's... Okay, 90% of Jews believe that chant is anti-Semitic.
Except when Benjamin Netanyahu uses it.
Now, again, I'm trying to talk about anti-Semitism, and you're just trying to talk over it to talk about...
No, I'm not, Brett. I'm trying to point out to you what everybody listening hears. They hear you saying that those words are toxic, but not acknowledging the fact that they're used by Israeli politicians quite regularly.
There are some toxic Israeli politicians. I'm not denying that.
In charge.
In charge. But
and currently overseeing the attack upon the Palestinian people in Gaza, which is what the protests...
Palestinian people, it's an attack on Hamas. And please do not conflate the two. It's an attack on the Hamas terrorist
the death toll conflates the two.
Well, okay, so let's say 30,000 people. Okay, let's talk about the death toll.
Well, I wanted to talk about Lee Anderson.
James, 1 second, because you wanted to bring this up. 30,000 was talked about in British Parliament plenty of times. That's an inflated number from Hamas. Hamas was at 28,000. Now let's take 11,000 off that. Let's call them terrorists, okay? So we're left with...
Where does that number come from?
So you think all 29,000 are...
No, I don't know what I think. I'm asking you what you think. Where does that number come from?
I would say that when the IDF and Israel have announced that it's 10 or 11,000 combatants are being killed, that's quite a...
Okay, just checking on your... Well, it's not verifiable. I've checked. They have said that, and it may be true. But why are we having this conversation when we're talking about the Tories' problem with Islamophobia?
All I said was I believe, and many Jews believe, from the river to the sea is a genocidal
But I have to now repeat, except when Benjamin Netanyahu says it.
That's in response. Okay, can we just talk about what...
Well, it doesn't work like that, Brett. You say things, I respond to them.
Okay, can you let me carry on my conversation?
Well, is it going to involve Lee Anderson and the Conservative Party at any point?
I won't repeat that. So, he was wrong, okay, in saying what he did, but now the conversation has turned to Islamophobia, okay? Any criticism of anything Islam-related is now Islamophobia.
No, that's not true.
Wait, I want to carry on.
Well, you can't say things that aren't true, Brett.
Now we've forgotten, James, about the anti-Semitism, which is absolutely rife, vile, and very, very threatening to the Jewish community. Okay, synagogues are being hounded. Jewish schools, okay, are under threat as well. It's a completely different sort of thing. If you look at the population of Jewish people in the UK, it's 270,000, something thereabouts. Population of Muslims in the UK is 4 million. If you look at the number of incidents of hate crimes between the two religions, they are round about the same, which shows that they're both awful. Of course, anti-Muslim hatred is awful. However, it is incredibly prevalent within, and pretty much 1,000 times more prevalent within the population of Jews. Now, what I'm saying is now we're having this whole conversation about one MP out of 650 who may have said something pretty damn silly, but we've now moved the whole conversation away from anti-Semitism. And how
well,
we tackle
no,
that.
but Brett, can I speak now?
James,
No, you carry on.
There are a number of mosques in the UK. Okay, I am certainly not an Islamophobe. I'm not anti-Muslim, but I'm worried about the prevalence of anti-Semitism within Islam in mosques in the UK.
Okay, here's the thing. So am I. Okay, I'm also worried about the prevalence of Islamophobia, and I think that we probably rightly, given the statistics that you described, spend a lot more time talking about anti-Semitism than we do about Islamophobia. But the reason why this conversation is, I mean, you must understand this, Brett, the reason why this conversation is unfolding in the way that it is on this day is as a direct consequence of a former deputy chairman of the Conservative Party indulging in base Islamophobia. And the fact that you don't want that conversation to be had is just a little odd. I would say to you that both conversations can be held. Why do you want to close one of them down?
I don't. I just
well,
feel
you did.
that
You've literally phoned in
No.
to object to the fact that we're talking about Islamophobia, Brett, and that's just weird.
I think no, it's not weird. And
It
stop
is.
taking things out of context, James.
I'm not, mate. Everyone's heard the
patronising.
conversation, Brett. Everyone's heard exactly what you said. That is, you rang in to complain that we were talking about Islamophobia.
Well, because of my reasons. We were
I know.
having a proper conversation about anti-Semitism, how to stop it.
Yes, and today we're having a conversation about Islamophobia. Why can't we do both?
Western people in the UK cannot raise anti-Semitism without raising Islamophobia at the same time.
That's not
the
true.
two have to be mutually
That's not
exclusive.
true.
Yes,
We spoke for the duration of Jeremy Corbyn's leadership of the Labour Party about the anti-Semitism
because it was horrendously rampant.
Yes, but you can't keep contradicting. You can't keep contradicting yourself. You just said we can't talk about it without bringing Islamophobia into it. I'm reminding you that we can, we do, and we did. So, in a couple of sentences, I need a couple of things from you. In a couple of sentences, who do we get permission from to have a conversation about Islamophobia?
No, of course we can have a conversation about Islamophobia.
Thank you. And the second thing is, which currently serving MP would you say stood comparison with Lee Anderson for anti-Semitism that you could compare to any party that you could compare, and be aware of libel laws, that you could compare to what Lee Anderson and Suella Braverman are now saying about Muslims?
Well, I could say about Muslims.
No, someone who's a serving MP whose anti-Semitism is of a piece with the Islamophobia displayed by Lee Anderson and Suella Braverman.
Oh, I think there's many within the Labour Party still, all the Green parties, many.
They don't have any MPs.
Within the Labour Party, there are many.
Who?
Well, Dawn Butler.
Okay, you're accusing Dawn Butler of anti-Semitism.
Yeah, easily.
Okay, and your evidence?
Some of the things that she says
Go
online. There is
on.
Absolutely. Look, I think for Jewish people.
No, you need to give me the evidence now, Brett. Respectfully, you need to give us the evidence now.
Well, I can't just read something. I'm on the phone to you. I can't just read something.
But you've literally just accused an MP of anti-Semitism. You can't then say I don't have any evidence.
Well, she's in the same boat as Jeremy Corbyn, so pretty much anything that Jeremy Corbyn
the evidence,
has said...
The evidence?
Like I just said, she is basically...
Jeremy Corbyn's not a Labour MP. Dawn Butler is.
Okay.
So, Brett, the evidence?
You're
a Conservative councillor accusing a Labour MP of anti-Semitism on national radio, and all I'm asking you for is your evidence, mate.
You're talking about Lee Anderson as a previous deputy chair of the party.
Yes.
I'm talking about Jeremy Corbyn as a previous leader.
No. I said serving MP for a reason, because Keir Starmer has got rid of Jeremy Corbyn. He is tackling anti-Semitism in a way that Rishi Sunak is not tackling Islamophobia. So just once more, in case our lawyers are listening, the evidence that Dawn Butler is anti-Semitic.
Absolutely bang out of order.
The evidence.
And you should be called out for this.
The evidence.
You're trying to put me into a trap.
No, I asked you a question to which you could have said, I can't think of anyone.
And I think it's disgusting.
Yes, well, I think the evidence is viewed.
Through you. Your listeners see through you.
I'm sure they do, Brett. But in conclusion, the evidence, please.
I just said it's the same thing as Diane Abbott. You know, do you want evidence of Diane Abbott and some of the stupid things that she said?
Not stupid, anti-Semitic from Dawn Butler.
Gingers received the
from
same
Dawn
thing as...
Butler.
Oh, okay. I don't have my phone on me to be able to read through Twitter, but she has said...
But I don't have my phone on me to be able to read through Twitter, but I can tell you what Suella Braverman and Lee Anderson have said that's Islamophobic.
Because they are always in the news at the moment, because you're pushing that agenda, because that's exactly what
Pushing that agenda? That's an interesting trope. What do you mean by that?
Sure, you are a funny man, James O'Brien, because you're
a Conservative councillor, Brett, in Boreham Wood.
Yes, and?
Accusing politicians of anti-Semitism without any evidence whatsoever.
No, I'll go through Twitter in a minute, shall I? As soon as I got off this call.
Yeah, if you want, mate.
Honestly, I think you're incredibly patronising.
It's not my fault you've come on the radio and made a fool of yourself.
All I've come on is to talk about the Jewish population.
You've come on to complain that we're having a conversation about Islamophobia, and you've ended up accusing Dawn Butler of anti-Semitism without any evidence whatsoever.
You put me in a box, James. You put me in a box.
You put yourself in a box, Brett.
You're purposely showing that you've got absolute contempt for the Jewish population.
So you're accusing me of anti-Semitism now?
Oh, I said contempt. Contempt, not anti-Semitism.
What's the difference?
Well, there is a difference.
What is it?
Well, you haven't said any words that are anti-Jewish hate. However, you're pushing this argument.
So what's the evidence for my contempt for Jewish people then?
Who came on this call?
What's your evidence for my contempt for Jewish people?
UK, to talk about anti-Semitism in the UK.
No, you phoned a phone in about Islamophobia.
Some sort of problem.
You phoned a phone in about Islamophobia. What's your evidence for my contempt for Jewish people, Brett? I take this quite seriously, actually. I think much of your... I think much of your call has been ridiculous, but I take this very seriously. What's your evidence?
Because you're trying to turn my conversation away from me talking about how Jews feel in the UK at the moment.
It's a conversation about Islamophobia. You phoned in to complain that we were having it. Now tell me what your evidence is for my contempt for Jewish people, Brett.
Because, do you know what? If I start raising some things like about issues with anti-Semitism in mosques, you're still trying to push me.
No, we're talking about my contempt for Jewish people. Give me some proof.
Because the fact that I've just come on this show as a heartfelt trying to ensure that the Jewish population gets a voice in all of this, instead of turning the conversation specifically to Islamophobia, which is a very...
So by talking about Islamophobia, I'm displaying contempt for the Jewish people, Brett?
No, the fact that you, instead of just listening and having empathy to what I've had to say...
I have empathy for some of the things that you've described, but I pick you up on things that are challengeable. Once again, your evidence of my contempt for the Jewish people, apart from the fact that I've been talking about anti-Muslim hatred today.
But you know what? It'd be worth going on YouGov, doing a poll about the Jewish population, what they think of yourself at this very present moment.
I'd ask you again, what's your evidence for my contempt for Jewish people, Brett? That's a very serious allegation that you've made.
Think of James O'Brien at the moment.
Yeah, I look forward to it. But in the meantime, your evidence, please.
I've just told you.
No, you haven't.
I've just told you that I've come on this show to have a conversation about anti-Semitism being taken away.
But it's a phone-in about Islamophobia.
No, it started. No, because this all started with Big Ben.
This started with Lee Anderson losing the whip for being Islamophobic, and the question I've asked about 14 times since 10 o'clock this morning is how have the Conservative Party got themselves into such a mess over Islamophobia? But I'd ask you, Brett, the question that remains, and we're going to have to call it a day soon, is your evidence, please, for my contempt for Jewish people. Because ridiculous though you are, I do find that hurtful and offensive.
And there we go. There we go. You just called me ridiculous.
Well,
okay?
Prove me wrong by giving me the evidence. Prove me wrong by giving me the evidence.
I'm just trying to have a decent, empathetic...
No, you accuse me of contempt for Jewish people. That's neither decent nor empathetic.
You're dealing with me. It's just a perfect example of patronising.
Where's your evidence?
Population. Oh my God! It's like I don't know. Sometimes I don't even know why I listen to you. Sometimes.
Where's your evidence?
I've just told you. You turned me coming on your show to talk a little bit about anti-Semitism.
On the contrary, Brett.
Me being ridiculous.
On the contrary, you rang in to complain that we were having a phone-in about Islamophobia. You've ended up accusing Dawn Butler of anti-Semitism and me of contempt for the Jewish people.
Well, do you know
Have a great day, Brett.